All right, it is the start of 2023, and we got a great guest, so let's do the podcast. My guest today is another skater that I was fortunate enough to watch grow up at the Pettit Center in Milwaukee. And he went from being a good competitive junior skater to all of a sudden being a complete menace on the World Cup circuit. And it seems like every time he goes to the line, he's breaking a world junior record or a track record or something. All the way from Kewaskum, we got Jordan Stoltz today. There he is. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So it's a race week, and you told me you were lifting weights.
Yeah, I was just trying to, get a little pump in before the races. I'm not trying to be too rested in these. Just going to keep trying training through this next month that I've been given until the next World Cup.
Gotcha. So, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're a big name now. You're a big deal, and everybody wants a piece of Jordan Stoltz. So there's plenty of interview footage out there, and there's a lot of discussions about how you discovered the sport when you were really young. I think it was the 2002 Olympics. You were watching short track, and you were watching Apollo Ono, and all of a sudden you just decided that, man, I want to be a speed skater. And because you live out in the country, you've got a pond in the backyard, so your dad just decided to make a speed skating oval for you.
Yeah, that's how it went, watching the 2010 Olympics.
2010 Olympics gave you the bug, and let's just play this clip really quick. So, there he is.
I think that was one of my first times on ice, but I couldn't really skate well. It's just kind of slipping around, yeah.
So once you were able to skate a little bit and you actually had an oval out there, could you really do anything on it? Was there enough ice quality that could you even do crossovers in the corners?
No, definitely couldn't do crossovers. That was maybe later, a couple years later once we started short track, we kind of figured out, I guess, we made like a circle track on the pond, and then we would do, I guess, just constant crossovers. But that wasn't once until we started short track and, figured out the sport of speed skating.
Yeah. So at that point, you were wearing short track skates out on the pond?
Yeah, that was a couple years later after I started. But when I first started, I was just wearing hockey skates with my sister. Sure. And maybe she had figure skates. We didn't really know, the difference. Just like a normal person who doesn't know anything about skating, they don't really know the differences.
Yeah. So back when you started, it was called the West Allis Speed Skating Club, based at the Pettit Center. And I would imagine, like most kids at that point, you were getting exposure to short track and long track, or was it only short track in the beginning?
It was only short track in the beginning, and I was actually in the Badder Speed Skating Club. I think
really?
2 years before, though. 2 years before I joined the West Allis Club. And I can't remember who that was run by. I think somebody, Grace Main or somebody. I can't remember the names. But and then that team, I'm not sure what happened to it. It's pretty far back in my memory. But then we joined the West Allis Club. Gotcha. And we were being coached by Al Johnson. Definitely one of my favorite coaches from my youth. Yeah, for sure. And just something about him as a coach. He was really chill. Gave us good workouts.
Do you remember when you first got exposure to long track? At that point, did you have a preference, or were you just kind of taking it all in?
I didn't get exposure to long track until I was probably, I guess, 10. We would go out on the long track when Bobby Fenn was around. He would have us come out and we'd do some, I guess, longer laps, but we just do it on our short track blades. And that's actually how we all skated back then when we were younger, is that just on the short track blades. So you didn't really get a good feel for it. And then maybe when I was 11, maybe a year after, we got long track clap blades. And that's when I started doing a bit more work with Bobby Fenn. And then we'd do the short track practices with Al Johnson about twice a week.
You got exposed to Bob Fenn, how long before you actually signed up to have him coach you?
Probably a year after knowing who he was. He pretty much just invited me to come join him, me and my sister. Because, yeah, we were only doing short track. I think it was twice a week. I don't know. I guess he just saw some potential in me and my sister as skaters, and he wanted to have us jump in. So we jumped in with, I guess, Mark Yannick, Heerenveen Sands, if you remember those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. But yeah, we, I guess, followed them for some laps, try and keep on.
At that point, you're really just showing up and doing whatever he has for you. But did you do off-season training with him?
I did do a few off-season trainings with him. But back then, it's so young. I guess we weren't really too focused on doing that because a lot of people would get burnt out, a lot of kids. So we were just trying to take only the winters for skating, and the summers would be off. Okay. But yeah, I did a couple of workouts with him, which were pretty hard. I'm sure anybody who knows Bobby knows they would be hard.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. He was famous for piling it on and really pushing people hard. Yeah. Were you working with Bobby right up to the time that he passed?
Yes, I was. Yeah, and I think he passed in October, and yeah, just got a call that he had passed. So.
Yeah, I remember that morning. It was not a good day. So after that, did you transition to Mike Whitty?
Yeah, and then Shawnee came. He was done after competing at the Olympics. He came, and he was just, I guess, sitting in Salt Lake, but decided to come to Milwaukee, and we asked him to help out, and I guess he was pretty intrigued. So he was coaching some other skaters. We jumped in with him.
Yeah, I remember those days. It's some of my fondest memories of speed skating, not so much just, getting the opportunity to be coached with him, but really just hanging around him. And you spent a lot of time with him, so you know that he's got a good sense of humor.
Oh, for sure.
He's an interesting guy. He's really fun. I actually enjoyed watching some of the interactions between the two of you. And that's when I first kind of got a sense that you've got this quiet demeanor and you're not a person that says a lot, but you have a good sense of humor as well.
Yeah, and we're both giving each other a hard time.
Yes. Yeah, those were good days. So I think I'm one person of many who have said that, when I watch you skate a corner, I see a lot of Shawnee Davis. When you watch yourself, do you see Shawnee in your corners?
I do see it a little bit. I also see other skaters in turns. I think maybe in the timing of the pushes, I see a resemblance to Shawnee, but not always in the position. I know a lot of people say it's really similar, but to be honest, I don't see it a whole lot.
Really?
Maybe in that the turn is good, yeah, but not in all his angles and his body position. I don't really see it a whole lot, other than the fact it's a good turn. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, his corners were fairly legendary, but yours are certainly turning out to be something special as well. So at some point then, Shawnee decided to move to Salt Lake. And when that happened, did you transition directly to Bob Corby at that point, or were you kind of back with Mike for a bit?
Once Shawnee, he was going to China, actually.
Oh, that's right.
And that's when we got a hold of I had this hip flexor. So we were I was using Bob as a physical therapist before Shawnee left because I had this hip flexor kind of type injury. And Bob used to be a coach, and we knew that back in the 80s. So when Shawnee left, we were like, hey, Bob, would you like to help out with me and start coaching? And he agreed to it. So he's definitely a fan of the sport. He has been for years. So he didn't mind coming after work every day.
I kind of mentioned it in the introduction that, you sort of went from being a competitive junior skater to suddenly being somebody that's, winning medals on, at the top level. So I started kind of going back and just looking at some of the numbers, which I really like to do. And I know, especially lately, you've become a very versatile skater. You can skate a hell of a 1500. You can still do a great 500. So you're not just like, a single distance specialist. But I thought just, for the sake of argument, I looked at your 500s over the course of the last several seasons. So in 2018-19, 38.5, then 36.2, then 34.99, then 34.11, and this year 34.08.
Yep.
So, I think everybody knows it's way easier to go from like 38 to 36 than it is to go from 35 to 34.
Yeah.
So when you look at, all of this progress, to me, a really big noticeable move was that summer of 21, because I was kind of looking at how you finished, that 2021 season, and that was a weird season anyway. But,
Right.
you hit the ground running in 21 Olympic season and really kind of killing it right out of the gate. So when you look back, I guess not even so specific to that one summer, but since you've become, very focused on this and extremely competitive, can you tell us a little bit about what a summer training program looks like for you?
So I would say the biggest jumps I think came from the summer training. I think my technique was fairly good back in, I guess 2019 when I was skating like a 38.5 and then like a 36.2. I know that obviously it could have been a bit better, and that's where some of the other like gains came from in the time drops. But I think the summer training is going to be like a lot of weights, a lot of biking. I pretty much trained as much as I can and then could still recover from. That's about what I would do for the whole summer. And I can't remember the first season, like 2019 to 2020, I think I weighed 136 pounds. And then when I got back to the next season, I think I weighed about 150. And then after that season, I went from 150 to 170, then 170 to 185, which is where I'm at right now. So definitely putting a lot of muscle on over the summer from all the weightlifting. And I think that was one of the biggest helps.
As we spoke before we jumped on today, you were doing weights. So what kind of setup do you have in your house?
I just got a normal squat rack in the basement.
Okay.
Just some Walmart weights. Yeah. It's nothing special, but it works. Definitely really cramped down there, but I was still able to get the sets in.
Well, as Kamani would say, gravity is undefeated. So,
exactly.
if you got weights, you got weights. They don't have to be super special.
Yeah, don't need a special setup.
And I'd also heard that you've become a pretty competitive cyclist as well, and so you've done a lot of biking. I'm assuming you're not going Nils van der Poel kind of biking, but still, when you're executing all this stuff in a summer training, who's writing your programs for you? Is that self-generated?
Bob Corby's writing the program.
Oh, really?
Obviously,
Okay.
I'll add in some of this stuff on my own. I think maybe I need like a longer bike ride today. I'll add that in. Or if I feel good, I'll let Bob know that I'm going to go heavier in the weights. So it's really flexible because Bob can't be there, every day throughout the summer. So I have to make some of my own decisions. Bob writes the program. I might make a couple changes to it. Definitely throwing in the cycling helps a lot. So.
Okay. Are you executing all of this stuff by yourself, or when you're cycling, you got
correct.
some guys that are going with you?
March to August, I probably rode with some other people about twice. Two or three times. All the other rides were solo the whole summer.
How do you keep that from driving you insane?
I can't. It does drive me insane, actually. Maybe just start screaming on the bike. I don't know.
Well, I sort of alluded to it with the whole Nils van der Poel thing because he breaks a zillion records and embarrasses the whole field, and then he writes that manifesto and posts it. And I read a lot of it. And one of the things that I found that was really interesting is like half of it he talked about the mental aspect of it and in trying to figure out how to deal with 7 hours of biking and all of the stuff that he would have to do off hours to try to keep himself from literally losing his mind. And I think one of the things that I've found in this sport is training by yourself is really hard. So how do you deal with that?
Well, the biggest thing I think is the time throughout the day. If you're taking time like in trainings, taking rest and stuff, like a 5-hour bike ride can easily turn into 7 or 8 hours depending on how much rest. If you rest like 15 minutes for like each hour, I don't know what that would equal to, but it would add on a lot. So trying to save as much time as possible. Dealing with the mental part of it, I think I enjoy the hard training, to be honest, the longer bike rides and the heavy weights. I don't think I know it's like helping me to progress, get better at skating. So there's nothing I can hate about that.
Yeah.
But if it does get too bit of excessive over day after day after day, definitely going to a different area, maybe like going to Salt Lake and riding in the mountains. That changes up things a whole bunch. Riding with some of those skaters out there. Yeah, cycling is the only really the only thing that you could pretty much lose your mind in, riding every day by yourself. So.
Yeah. I didn't hear you mention short track skating or inlines.
Mm-hmm.
So are you doing any of that stuff in the summers?
So no, I actually only skated short track twice this past summer. No inlining either. Yeah, I never really liked. I have tried inline like once or twice. I never really liked how it felt. Didn't really feel like skating. And I think my feel for the ice right now is pretty good. So I don't really want to take the chance to mess anything up over the summer with inline. I know the Dutch do it a lot, but the Dutch also have years of studying it and how to do it properly. And if I were to go out and do it by myself, I don't think it would turn out well.
Slide board, low work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, slide board. I do a lot of slide board sets, maybe like 20 minutes on or 10 minutes on, depending on what Bob has written down. Low work, don't really do low work. I mean, jumps, I guess you could consider low work, but I would consider that more plyometrics. But maybe like hill tempos, Bob calls them. We'll do low walks up a ski hill. That's usually like two minutes. That's down at Sunburst, actually. But we'll do sets of those, and then we'll add in some hill runs. And that's pretty much the low work, or I would consider those one of the hardest workouts, because, building so much lactate. Once you get to the top of the hill, you're just dead. So it's not like we can do that for hours. But yeah, that jumps and running and jump intervals, it's all pretty intense, actually. Yeah. So I think that's all of that combined. Definitely, yeah.
They're both named Bob, but I would imagine there's a ginormous difference between Bob Corby and Bob Fenn. Standing at the base of a mountain, having you low walk up. Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing all that. That was that was really interesting. So let's get a little bit more contemporary with things here. So the Olympic year comes up last year. You started off with some pretty good times in October. 34.7, 34.5, 107.8 in Salt Lake in October. But then World Cup number 4 in Calgary. To me, I remember that weekend. To me, that was the one where I literally was like, holy shit. What Jordan is doing right now is insane. So you went 34.11, junior world record. Then you joined the 106 club in the 1,000, another junior world record. I think all of a sudden, that 1,000 was your first A group podium, I think.
Yeah, that was.
So it's like, it seems to me like it was like this dream, like all of a sudden, wow, Jordan's going to World Cups, and then like there he is on the podium, he's wearing a cowboy hat. And then we had a little bit of time off, and we're kind of heading into Olympic trials, and now it's like, okay, let's see what he can do. And then Olympic trials was just like, that was a clinic. That was awesome. Like it was super cool. And it just seemed like every time he went to the line, it's like, what's he going to do next? So you had mentioned in another interview that I had heard a while back that all the way back when you were a little kid, you just declared to maybe nobody that I'm going to go to the Olympics. So when that finally happened on that Sunday, and it's like, geez, I guess I'm actually going. What were you thinking? Like, was there a little sense of validation, or had you already ratcheted up your expectations, and now it was like, we're going to go and medal?
Yeah, I think it definitely was a kind of like a validation that I finally made it. I wouldn't say that I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and medal, because just making the Olympics alone at 17 is pretty impressive enough. I wouldn't say it was too crazy in my mind that I made it, because I wouldn't say I want to see it coming, but I knew that the chance was really possible in there, and I just had to make it happen, and that's pretty much all I could do. It wasn't like a crazy thing, but it was definitely a sense of fulfillment that I finally made the Olympics. But yeah, I could like see the progress, and the way it was going could lead up to like an Olympic team spot, especially with how the summer training is going, how the races were going over the winter. So it was just a matter of performing well at the Olympic trials, and then I knew I'd make it. So
yeah. So from that point, okay, you're going. You know that you're skating the 500 and the 1,000, but still a really weird Olympics. Very locked down, very sterile. Walk me through the couple weeks leading up to going, and then just the whole experience.
yeah, I mean, like a couple of weeks leading up to going, I was trying to get as much training in as possible. Because to be honest, I was getting a little out of shape on my, I guess, cardio base. But definitely a lot of hype before going there. And yeah, going there was nice. When I finally got there, it wasn't, I guess, totally what I expected. Like there's a lot of security, and with COVID, they're taking all the precautions. There's like nobody in the airport when you get there. It's just an huge empty airport, and all of us, there's a whole bunch of Chinese people in hazmat suits guiding us around, and we have certain lanes to walk in, and kind of creepy, I guess you could say. But every athlete who arrived had to get instantly COVID tested, like right there. Then we all, I guess, got on the bus. It was we were pretty confined. We couldn't really, like, there's no way you could have gone anywhere or done anything. It was kind of like being in jail, but able to travel around places. So we took the bus ride, I guess, to this building outside of the village where they checked out everything. And then we had to load it back up on a little bus that takes us to the hotel. It was a nice hotel. It was a little empty. I guess it was a nice experience, but not what I expected for the Olympics. Obviously, it was still great that we're there, but seeing people in hazmat suits outside spraying the sidewalks with bleach is a little interesting.
So let's talk about your on ice performance there. I think the 500 was okay. It was probably within a range of where you thought you'd probably finish. You and I spoke about this a few times. The 1,000 wasn't exactly what you were hoping for.
No.
And I had asked you, specifically, hey, what do you think happened? And do you remember what you told me?
Maybe I said something about the ice.
No, actually not. It was more just in terms of it felt like maybe you didn't feel like your training matched up with the event exactly.
Yeah, it was quite a while before we actually raced. And I believe that the 1,000 meter was 2 weeks after the 500 meter or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was just, I guess, if I were to do it over again, I would definitely take more time to train and stay in shape and not worry about how I'm feeling on the ice until I actually get there. Because after Olympic trials, we never really went super hard, just tried to maintain the good feel for the ice. But I think now I would get back, like lift heavy, do longer bike rides, then go there and be able to be in my best shape. But we were taking a lot more rest and tapering. And after the 500, I didn't really do much there. I honestly didn't really feel that great there with the food and stuff, just kind of tired. So I never really felt like, I want to go and do a hard workout today. And I feel like that would have just maybe hurt, but maybe it would have been better. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And then the ice there, that's a whole other story. I think they had it like the coldest it's ever been in like any, I guess, speed skating race. It was like, I don't know, -14 Celsius. I'm not sure, something like that. I know it was below zero, I think, the ice temperature. So it was insanely crunchy, and my blades are actually kind of round. I wasn't constantly checking the radius, so the backs were a bit round, the front too. So I was definitely feeling the crunch a lot. Even when I'd first land the push like this, I would already feel like crunching before, like usually you feel it at the end of the push when you're carving, but I felt that right away. I feel like that really just, I guess, that kills you when you don't get a nice big strong push that you can glide on. And yeah, I think that not training enough, and then the food and the environment there really didn't really play out well.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess any Olympics, it's going to be challenging to navigate all that stuff, right? I mean, did you kind of feel like when you go to an event like that? I mean, obviously it's totally different than a World Cup weekend, where it's just like bing, bang, boom, and you're on the plane and you're out of there. So do you kind of feel like, for a couple of weeks, your life wasn't your own?
Yeah, I mean, there was really nothing to do there besides go to the Pizza Hut they had and drink Coke. But we were pretty much just in the hotel room or else at the rink. But it was still a great experience being at the Olympics.
Yeah.
But I think a typical World Cup is more fun, to be honest.
So let's switch gears to the season, because that's where I really want to talk and get into some video and stuff here. So one thing though that I do know that you made a change this year, which was interesting and can be kind of risky. You got new boots this year. You got some Marchese's, right? So how long did it take you? I mean, was there an adjustment period there? Was there ever a point where you put them on where you're like, oh, shit?
Yeah. There's definitely an adjustment period. Maybe it lasted for like probably a month till I got really used to them. They're definitely a lot lower than the boots I was on before. So just learning the edges, I guess. It was not a whole different feel, but I think I got used to it quicker because I started out the season on those. If I would have been on the old boots in the beginning of the season, it just would have made it even harder to switch to those. So definitely starting out the season on those was a good idea. I guess there's still a bit of a learning period of them, and I honestly feel like I haven't figured them out fully yet.
Really?
Like there's still a little bit more, yeah.
Well, that's bad news for the rest of the field then.
Could be, yeah.
So looking back, so the fall qualifier, another junior world record in the 1,000. And then, to me, World Cup #1 in Norway. So since I've gotten into this sport, I'm generally more focused on the sprinting, and what I mean by sprinting is 500,000. But I've become fascinated with the 1,500 now, and I'm trying to learn, how do you skate a good one, and I've kind of studied it. And watching your 1,500 in Norway, I think I texted you after that, and I just said, I think you just skated a race like nobody's ever skated. So if you're cool with it, I want to pull it up here, and we'll watch the first. We'll watch the opener and the first lap, and then we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll watch the rest of it.
Okay. All right.
You look tremendously relaxed.
Yeah, I was definitely way more relaxed in this opener. For the speed, I had no idea it would be like a 23.3.
Yeah.
As you can see right here, I'm barely pushing.
But it's super relaxed, no rushing. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice and smooth. Everything's under the ice. You look completely unbothered and like you're just out for a stroll.
Yeah, right here I'm still just gliding, and then I felt so much power in this turn. I just attacked it as hard as I could, and I honestly didn't really feel tired at all in that at 700. I think maybe it was something with the ice. It was just really good, working out really good for me. But because actually when I came from Salt Lake and I got there, I immediately felt like my skating had gotten better. Like I was feeling at the edges more, feeling the knee angle more. And I honestly feel like just the ice there helped me out in that race a lot.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because that was one thing that I really noticed is it seemed like it was literally two different races. You had your opener and first lap where you looked like you were literally just doing warm-up laps, and then you got to that back corner and you just hammered it. And then after that, it looked like your hair was on fire and you just had so much energy and so much tempo. A 1,500 is supposed to look like you're dying a horrible death. And to me, you were just killing it for 800 meters. So let's watch the rest of it, because I just think this is super cool. So back to that corner you were talking about. So here you're just feeling it. And off he goes. And now it's just like, look at that energy. that Mia screaming at you?
I'm not sure who that is. I hear it in a lot of races, but
yeah, I think it's Mia. So now it's the last lap of a 1500, and you're supposed to be completely dead. And it looks to me like you're not completely dead.
No.
I think your fitness there was exceptional. Those pushes are all still going right into the ice. And now he's just hammering it. Good crowd, too.
Yeah.
28-6. So, in case you don't remember,
last lap.
Yeah, you destroyed the field. So,
yeah.
But as speed skating goes, you know, it's like, oh, Jordan's never going to lose another race, and he's going to win everything by 10 seconds, and you know, and then after that, it was off to Heerenveen, you know, the mecca of speed skating, and you're coming off those great performances in Norway. I follow a website in Norway or in the Netherlands called NOS, and I go to their speed skating section quite often, and I went there one day and there were like 7 images and 3 of them were you. It's like, holy shit, you know, now everybody wants to interview Jordan, and they want to start baiting you into talking about track records and all this kind of stuff. So how were you treated there?
I was treated good. I did a lot of interviews, but I wouldn't say it was to hype me up. I think it was to hype themselves up that I was going to go there and break their track record in the Dutch. Oh, they have to watch out now. And so I wouldn't say I was treated badly. I didn't mind the interviews and talking about the track record. It didn't get in my head at all. I definitely love the crowd there. Like, having an actual crowd that loves speed skating is way different than being here and just, you know, the parents pretty much, which are usually I don't know, not that many people, but having a crowd there is a whole different thing. It makes you feel like you're a professional in speed skating. So.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I'm fascinated by this sport is when you do see a World Cup in a place like Heerenveen and they've got a good crowd and there's tons of people there and they're just cheering for everybody. I just think that's so cool. You know, they're going to cheer louder
just
for
fans
the
of
Dutch,
skating.
which is great, but they want to see great skating. So, you know, if you're on a really good one, it's awesome. I think that's a really cool thing about it. And speaking of being on a really good one in Heerenveen, I think you got paired with Larry in the 1,000.
Yeah.
And you had Inner, and you guys both had just a smoking opener, and you went into that second corner, and did the ice just give way? What happened?
Yeah, I know they didn't resurface after 1,500 ladies, so it was a bit chewed up, but I also felt like I was going like super fast into that turn, so I was trying to manage my way around it, and I feel like booting out just a little bit and a combination of having that rough ice, I think that made the fall. But yeah, I remember going in there and just trying to make it through there. You can see the lean in the video. It's going a lot faster. It looked way faster than some of the other races I've done.
Yeah, I feel cheated because I remember watching it live, and it wasn't just so much the opener, but it just felt to me like by the time you got to the end of the straightaway, I was like, holy shit, is he going fast? This is going to be awesome. And then all of a sudden you were just down. Did that fall have any effect on you?
I guess it made me mentally tired because I was thinking about it, like I got the 500 next and 1,500 too. But I don't think it affected me too much other than I had to bend my blades all night because they really got messed up going into the pads.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So since I hit them going from the right, it put a whole bunch of bend in them, and I was messing with it pretty much all night, trying to get it out, but make it even. And I think that was the biggest thing. I don't feel like it got in my head that much because it's just kind of like I've never fallen that way. It's just kind of random. So I don't know.
Are you still on those same blades? Have you repaired them good enough?
Yeah, they're repaired good. Yeah.
So I think we were wrapping up with your experience in Heerenveen, and then coming back to Calgary for back-to-back weekends. in that first weekend, you know, I think you had 3 decent races. You just missed the podium in the 1,000. Did you feel different between those 2 weekends? Because certainly the second one was killer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when you went to World Cup 3, did you have a feeling that it was going to be, I'm not sure?
Well, I did do a lot of training in Salt Lake City before I came there. So I was a little bit tired from that because I only had about 2.5 weeks to train after I got back from Heerenveen, and we didn't do much over there, just racing. So it's to maintain the fitness, I kind of had to do what I had to put the work in Salt Lake. And I think coming there a day before racing just really didn't give you enough rest and enough feel for the ice. So I think that made a huge play in that. And then after the first weekend, I was able to just rest for 4 days straight and just lay in bed all day. And that made like the huge difference. So
yeah, you think
just needed a bit of rest.
If we look at what you did there, I mean, first, I think the 1,500, you got silver, super solid. And then maybe the surprise race of the year, finishing second in the 500.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was in me. I just didn't know. I actually hadn't done a 500 that was rested yet. And even that one, I still did a 1,500 before it. So, but I mean, it was the best I've been feeling. Like, it was still 24 hours after the 1,500. I was feeling really good on that day. I know a lot of other people didn't expect it, but I think on that given day, I kind of knew that it would be a good one. I didn't know what place it would be, though.
Yeah, well, it was another junior world record. Just good. Throw it on the pile with all the other ones.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then that 1,000 was super special, and that second lap was so cool. So I wanted to watch this one with you, if you'll indulge me again.
Okay.
Red.
Not bad.
Not the fastest opener, but it was good enough.
Well, it certainly launched you into a great first lap.
Yeah. Right here's when I could feel I still had a lot in me. I was just breathing, focusing on my breathing. And I was just able to keep pushing and attacking this,
So you were thinking about your breathing there.
Yeah, I kind of realized I wasn't really breathing going into that turn, and I just started taking deep breaths of air, and then all of a sudden, I just felt a lot more power. I was able to keep going, and I got into that straightaway, and I was able to just keep hitting the edges, keep like a constant pressure.
You came to take the belt. Are you conscious of your pair at that point? Do you know where he is? Are you already thinking about, where your position's going to be on that backstretch?
Not really. I knew he wasn't ahead of me. We were pretty much even, but I knew I figured that he wouldn't have that much strength on that straightaway and then going into that second to last turn. So when we went into that second to last turn, I didn't see him go right past me right away. So I knew I was going good. And it did set me up for a little bit of a draft.
Yeah, let's watch that. Yeah. This second lap is awesome. 25.5 second lap. That's pretty solid.
Only 8/10 drop.
Yeah, that's a hell of a skate. So when you come out of that corner like that and you've got a pair that you can get some draft off of, is there ever a concern that you're gonna get caught up being too fixated in getting a draft and kind of lose your own skating, or doesn't that really cross your mind?
I don't really think it's going to happen, but sometimes it does. If somebody's coming up close and you try and chase that draft, sometimes it might have been better just stay in your own skating and keep attacking. But I think the distance we had was about, I think, in my opinion, the perfect distance. I was able to keep attacking. I didn't get up too close and like get too glidey.
Yeah, that was 8/10 drop. That is
Yeah.
that is a spectacular end to a really, really good World Cup, and that was the last one before the break. So, you know, if I'm reading this right, you went silver, silver, gold, and
That's correct.
now it's time for a break. So yeah, that's a really nice end to the fall season. So we spoke about this before, but National Championships is coming up in a couple of days. Do you have any specific goals for what you're doing there? I know you lifted weights today, so you're still kind of in a training mode. Is there any specific things that you're trying to do in this event coming up?
I think having some good races. I know I'm going to be a bit tired, so racing through the tiredness is going to be a good learning experience. I know I've done that a little bit at the World Cups doing the 5K, but getting some good, I guess you could consider them time trials, getting those in. If the ice is fast enough, obviously the lowland world record for the 1,000-meter could come into play, because I am going. I mean, last year my time was like a 107.6, and I'm definitely going better in the 1,000-meter this year. So I think the lowland world record's like a 107 flat. If I were to go 106, I'd be the first person to do that. But it's also, do I want to rest and do that, or do I want to train and be more prepared for like leading into the next couple of weeks and going to Junior Worlds. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Okay. And plus the 5K and the 1,500s before the 1,000 meters. So I'm already going to be even tired from that. Yeah. But if I were rested, I think a 106 could come into play.
Are you required to skate the 5K for juniors?
Not required, but for all around, yeah.
All right. And what about mass start?
Mass start, I don't have to do mass start at the national championships. I can do it in Junior Worlds or whatever.
Okay. Are you going to do mass start at nationals?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. When will you make that decision?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay.
But
you haven't done a ton of mass starts really in your career, but it seems to me that at times you're pretty sporty out there. Is that an event that interests you?
Yeah, I actually really do enjoy it. I think I have a good feel for it, going around weaving between people. And I think I definitely have the endurance base now to stick with whatever the pace is. And then I still have that sprint. So I think once the mass starts stop interfering with the other races, that I'll start doing them again. But yeah, it's definitely, I really do enjoy doing mass starts.
Junior Worlds, last time around you skipped them for kind of obvious reasons. You're going this time. I gotta believe on paper you're kind of an overwhelming favorite. Is it too dumb of a question for me to ask you why you're going?
If you really want to know, it's because the money. There actually is a decent amount of prize money, and plus to build up the legacy. Like, I don't want to be this. I've never gone to Junior Worlds. Like, everybody wants to win Junior Worlds, and back a couple of years ago, that's all I wanted to win. That's all I would train for. Is I want to medal at Junior Worlds. I wasn't thinking, in a couple of years I'm going to be on the Senior World Cup circuit trying to win medals. It was more so I want to be the best junior skater, and I think maybe we should go back and finish that, and then go to the Senior World Cups with the legacy behind. Yeah.
So in this year we have a world single distance event at the end of the season. You were interviewed and somebody asked you which distances you were going to do, and you said all of them. Are you still thinking like maybe you might try to do a 10K?
Oh, honestly, probably not. No, it's probably going to be 500 and 1,500 5K. I can't remember which interview that was. I probably did say that, but I wasn't thinking like the 5K and 10K. But I don't think we'll see a 10K this year. Okay. Maybe next year.
How many have you done in your life?
0.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never done one.
Okay.
But I still think it can be good.
I just got a handful more questions that are a little bit more, I guess, general. We can get through those, and then we can call this a wrap. So I have to assume, and you just alluded to it in the last segment, that your rise in this sport and in the rate of improvement just in this last recent time maybe even caught you a little bit off guard. Would you say that your long range goals are you a long range goal guy?
Yeah, I think so. I think now I am. Maybe not back then when I was trying to get good, like back when I said I was trying to be just a good junior. But I think now long-range goals for sure, yeah.
Do you share them?
Do I share them? I mean, like world records and winning the Olympics? Yeah. Those are the obvious goals. But I think the goals that are in training are going to be more important than just thinking about that.
Okay.
So,
what do you mean by goals in training?
I think not thinking about the end goal, like making, winning gold at the Olympics and setting world records, because that's just one single thing that you're thinking about, and there's hundreds of other steps you have to take to get there. And I think focusing on each step at a time that leads you to that goal, I think that's just as important as thinking about what goal you want to have, like as an end goal.
Do you enjoy the process?
Not always, but yeah, if the process is going quickly. So if I were only getting 0.2 faster per year, obviously I'd probably be like more like, oh, I want to win junior worlds like back then, and not thinking about like long-term, like big goals in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I asked that question just because I think it's so important. If you're immersing yourself into a pursuit like this, that you're able to take a step back, along the way and be grateful for what you have and how it's going, and really embrace, the next bike ride or the next weight session or whatever it is you're doing, and be able to just really enjoy the journey, so that it doesn't end up just being this thing about, results and because, the Olympics are only every 4 years, right? So you better be enjoying the journey, or it's going to be, can be very unfulfilling, even if you go win stuff.
Yeah. I mean, winning World Cups is, I guess, part of the journey, gives you motivation. Like, I'm for sure going to have a much much more enjoyable time training this summer, because I have all like the World Cup medals behind me. I want to stay ahead, try and get a bit more on the competition. So it all gives motivation.
Yeah, and we touched on this before, but I'm assuming, you're only 18 years old. A couple more Olympic quads probably is something that you're already thinking, yeah, I'm kind of in for this, unless, all of a sudden you just can't skate anymore or whatever. Do you think about life after skating?
Yeah, I also think about other sports, because there's more to just skating. Cycling would be a fun thing to pick up, maybe some kind of professional cycling. I wouldn't want to spend all my time just skating if it's just like a kind of like a plateau. Like, obviously winning medals at Olympics are important, but if you're just doing it year after year, obviously there's other things in sports that can be accomplished. So I'd like to look into that.
You mentioned to me at some point that you had already thought about maybe doing some coaching in the future. Is that something you're thinking more in terms of a long-term goal?
Yeah, it's still a possibility. I would love to coach. I like helping out other skaters, especially if I can give them the stuff I learned in my workout programs and watch them progress and get better. I'd really enjoy that.
So you've traveled and skated internationally, some, not for years and years, but as you've been out there, not so much with the Olympics because that experience was just so weird, but in other international events that you've done, have you managed to make some friendships with skaters from other countries?
Yeah, a lot of the skaters, they're all really friendly. Norwegian team's really nice. I always have a little bit of banter with Sigurd Henriksen. I always tell him I'm going to break his 5K junior world record, which there's no way that's going to happen, but I like to tell him I will. So I like to give him one of these. But
what's the number?
6:13.
Oh, that's pretty sporty.
Yeah. Maybe if he wouldn't have beaten it this year, maybe I would have a small chance, but there's no way now. But
well, speaking of more records for Jordan Stoltz, we were watching you do a 3K on Saturday. Were you after a specific record that day?
Yeah, I was after the junior world record. I honestly think I didn't really sleep too well the night before. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling. The day before, I was feeling much better. I did 3 laps at 8.5, and I felt like I could have done it for 2, 3 more. And then when I got to the race, I got 3 in at 28. The next one was like a 9.2. Just wasn't really feeling it. I definitely think the ability is in me, and I think if I would have been feeling better that day, I think I would have had it.
So you went 3:43.
3:43. Yeah. So about.
What's the number? What's the world record?
3:40.1. Yeah, I think on a better day I could have had it.
Did we help you with all our cowbells up there?
I actually did notice them. I was wondering what was going on. I'm like, why are they ringing the bell? It's not last lap yet. And then, I figured Bonnie had the cowbells up there.
Yeah, we were excited.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got one last question for you, and then we're going to put a wrap on this. So,
okay.
We talked about it a number of times in this session, but, the fact that you really, just in the last 18 months or so, you went from being like kind of here to just this totally different level. Do you ever catch yourself, just in a quiet moment, just kind of thinking to yourself, holy shit, I can't believe where I've gotten to? Does it ever just catch up to you?
Yeah, sometimes. But then I just think of all the training I've done and it hurt along the way. So it's not like it just happens. So.
No, it's not free, is it?
No, definitely not.
Well, I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time hanging out, and our viewers don't know it, but we ended up having to do this in 2 sessions because of some battery issues, but I really appreciate you making the time.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to see where you go. It's so much fun to watch you go to the line, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, what's he going to do to surprise us today? And you're only 18, and I think your work ethic combined with your knowledge of technique and stuff, it's super fun. I hope it just keeps climbing, and who knows what you're gonna do.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
It's a typical Jordan Stoltz answer. Yeah,
we'll have to see. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you're great for those Dutch interviewers who are desperate for you to say something controversial, and you're like, yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. Like that? Yeah.
You got it down, kid. You got a great career ahead of you, just saying nothing. Do all your speaking on the ice and keep grinding in the off season. Well, thanks very much. It was a great session. I had multiple people reach out to me and say, hey, when are you going to have Stoltz on? And now we did it. So thanks, man. It was a great session.
Yeah, it was nice.
We are out of here.
All right. See ya.